Hi, I'm Chris for RightSizeLife.com. For those of us cooking for ourselves, or perhaps one other person, one of the most useful tools in our kitchen is the vacuum sealer. Normally marketed as a cost savings device, allowing for buying in bulk or in season and then freezing, for those of us who don't need large quantities of food, the vacuum sealer has a different, but I think equally important purpose. It allows us to package our grocery purchases, or leftovers if you're fortunate enough to have them, in small, convenient, single-serving packages, and then store them in our freezer in a way that is easy to see and to access. In the next few minutes, I'm going to demonstrate packing up some recent purchases from the meat counter, along with one package of leftover soup. When looking for or purchasing a vacuum sealer, I think there's only a couple of features that you really need to look for. The first is you want to find a vacuum sealer that has an interior vacuum channel that's removable, like this one is. That makes it very easy to clean the vacuum sealer, and if it's easy to clean, you're probably going to use it more often. The second thing you want to look for is a vacuum sealer that has a wet and a dry setting. The dry setting is used for freezing things like coffee or spices. And if you want to be able to freeze or seal those kinds of things, it's good to have that dry setting. Finally, you'll want to make a decision about what kind of bags you use. Now, most vacuum sealers come with rolls, and these are a little cheaper to vacuum seal with the rolls, but they're also made for freezing in larger quantities. I normally just use the pre-made bags. They're very convenient, and they're awfully easy to pack up my food and be done in a quick amount of time. As promised, I'm going to vacuum seal a variety of different products. I've got here 1/2 of a marinated chicken breast. I've got 1 pound, pretty good looking ground round. I've got 3 chicken bratwurst. And finally, over here I've got a pot of soup that I made the other day that I'm going to freeze off at least 1 pack of that. The first thing I do is I make a rim with the top of the bag, and I make it pretty broad, maybe a couple of inches. The reason for this is twofold. First, it makes it easier to put the food in the plastic bag. It forms a pretty strong opening. And second, it makes it easier to clean up that rim prior to me putting the food and the bag in the vacuum sealer. Now, it's okay if you slop a little when you're putting in some food. You're going to clean it up at the end anyway. The most important thing here is to not overfill the bag. It's always okay to waste plastic, but it's pretty frustrating when you overfill the bag and then can't get the bag to seal and have to completely repack your food. Go ahead and finish up packing up whatever you're doing. Soup is always the hardest. It's a little sloppy and it's hard to get in. Meats and other solid products are normally easier. Plus, it's always a little easier to do it cold rather than hot, especially if it's a soup. It's a little easier to handle. Once you're done filling the bag, again, I can't emphasize enough, don't overfill. Clean the rim of the bag that you made earlier with a clean rag. Then unroll it. And then move to your vacuum sealer and vacuum seal up what you just packed. Once again, use whatever instructions the manufacturer tells you to use. It always takes a little time. Be patient. Don't force the process, or the final heat seal will be wasted. Once you've completed sealing it up, do one more clean on the rim, especially if you're sealing liquids. You're going to actually draw some through during the heat seal process, and it just makes it a little cleaner in your freezer. So clean up that lip that you've just created. Here I'm doing a half marinated chicken breast in one of the same size bags. I've created the rim. I just kind of put the chicken breast in there. Interestingly enough, a half chicken breast these days is about 3/4 of a pound. So for many people, this is enough meal for 2 people. Now don't worry about wasting some bag at this point. This chicken breast is going to seal up real tight. It's going to seal flat, which is what we want. And it's okay to waste a little plastic. Again, we're allowing ourselves to shop less frequently, and we're preserving our food in a way that is easy to get at and that we know we can get a hold of. Again, follow the manufacturer's instructions. Allow plenty of time for the whole process to occur. Here I am doing some chicken sausage that I bought at the local butcher. I've chosen to put 3 in a pack. For some people that might not be enough. For others, they might think it's too many. Again, I've created a rim on the bag, a lip. I've placed my 3 sausages in the bag. I'm just going to seal them off per the manufacturer's instructions. Now, if sausage comes on a rope from your local butcher, you can always just split it in half or freeze the whole thing if you want to. The purpose of this is to get the food in quantities that we want and know that we're going to use, rather than just freezing the product, putting it in our freezer and losing it, and not having it in a quantity that's accessible and usable for our day-to-day cooking. Once it's all done, 3 chicken sausages. I think one of the most important parts about vacuum sealing in small quantities isn't necessarily that the food stays fresher, which it does, but that it takes a small space like this and turns it into a very effective, larger storage space. I'm never particularly organized, but I do like my food stacked up like this so I can see it and so it's readily available when I'm ready to cook. If you don't have a vacuum sealer, I recommend that you get one. If you do have one, pull it out and rediscover how useful it can be. Vacuum sealers allow us to handle leftovers, shop less often, and package our food in a way that is easy to find and access. That is it for this demo. You can find a written version of the information presented, along with other helpful kitchen and lifestyle tips at RightSizeLife.com. RightSizeLife.com is an online community dedicated to those who are living solo or in pairs. RightSizeLife.com. Big living on a small scale.